Hello, Black Powder Shooters. This is Tim Davis back again with the Early American Arms channel. And as you can see, we're not out on the range today. We're inside. And I want to take some time to talk about a pocket revolver of the 1860s. And the one in particular we'll be talking about today is model 1863 Remington new model pocket revolver. There's been a lot of shooting videos about this particular gun, but not a lot of just sit down informational videos about it. And I wanted to do one of those today. In the 1860s, Remington was very successful and had a lot of popularity and success with their martial arms, such as the new model Army, very large military type revolver with the top strap and 44 caliber. And they also produced a Navy model, which is a smaller version, in 36 caliber with a shorter barrel. Both very popular. Sold a lot of these to the U.S. military and made a lot of profit from that. But at the end of the war, there was a lot of surplus arms. Colt and Remington alike. They made thousands upon thousands of those weapons for the military and for the war effort. And there was a lot out there to be sold as surplus, and the sales for those were kind of stagnant. And one thing that Remington had produced in the past, but they hadn't produced a revolver form of it, was a pocket pistol. And they saw the popularity of Colt pocket pistols, one in particular, the model 1849 pocket model in 31 caliber, which is the best-selling cap and ball revolver of all time in the Colt line. This was a refinement of the 1848 Baby Dragoon, in which they refined and put the new lockwork in it and also added a loading lever. Made it a very versatile, popular revolver with civilians, lawmen, people going out west that wanted a small revolver that they could put in their pocket rather than having a large belt revolver or horse pistol to have to carry. So what Remington did was take that same Beals patent that they used in the Army model and the Navy model and scale that down to a pocket-sized 31 caliber revolver. The difference in being that they had a lot of the same features other than just having the spur hammer rather than a trigger guard like the larger version, military versions. And mechanically, pretty much the same. You had the same loading lever that kept the cylinder pin in place, just like the larger versions. Again, only difference being that it was had a spur trigger on it with a sheath rather than the exposed trigger with a trigger guard. And what really interested me in this particular replica that I have here today and wanting it in my collection was the fact that it was really one of the very few pistols that were actually produced with a brass frame. You had the Spiller and Burr and the Griswold and Gunnison in the South that were produced during the Civil War with brass frames, but you didn't see any Northern pistols really in the percussion era produced with brass frames other than this one. And this is a representation of their first model. And they produced their first model Remington pocket pistol with a brass frame. Now you see in relation, this is a pretty dainty pistol, even compared to the Colt pocket pistol. That is a small one when you lay it down next to a Navy or an Army, but it was even a little smaller than the Colt pocket pistol. Same caliber, 31, 5-shot, just like the Colt, but a little smaller. This is a pocket pistol. You could stick this in a vest pocket or in a shirt pocket, hidden, very well concealed for personal protection. Now, some of the details on these revolvers are kind of shrouded in history. The production dates, some claim it was 1863, the date of the patent. Others say it was 1865. So, there's varying information on what I've gathered out on the sources of research that I've done. and they produced it up until about 1878. Again, production numbers range from 17 to about 26,000, somewhere in that area. They were produced. Again, it was a 5-shot, 31 caliber pistol. Had different barrel lengths. Had a 3 1/4, a 3 1/2, like this modern day replica has, and they even produced a 4 1/2 inch version of this replica. And brass framed ones being the smallest amount produced. They're very rare, and you don't see too many of them today. And like I said, that's what interested me in having this particular version in my collection, because in real life it's a fairly rare model, and it was one of the only brass framed pistols produced in the percussion area in the northern states. So it was interesting to me. You could get several options on these pistols. You could get rosewood, ebony, or walnut grips. You get ivory grips on these. Some were nickel plated, some were engraved. You could get embellishments like that. Again, this is the first model. The second model came out with a steel frame, still having the brass spur. And I would imagine that was because they had just leftover parts, and why machine new ones when you could just use the brass. And then the third model was all steel, hammer or trigger spur included. And as I said, they were produced through 1878. Latter part of the 1870s, they were produced as metallic cartridge 32 caliber pistols. They no longer were percussion. Now, this particular gun, I picked it up at an Ohio Gun Collectors show a few months back. And the neat story behind it, I was walking through the aisles and spotted a dealer with an original first model Remington pocket model sitting on his table. And as with a lot of pocket models you see original, it was in pretty good shape, because a lot of these weren't used and treated very rough. They were spent most of their life in a drawer or in someone's pocket, or not beaten around like the bigger versions on the trail or on the frontier. And the dealer was a very nice gentleman, a very gracious young man, and he really wanted to share the history of these firearms. And I looked at it and was marveling at it, and he invited me to pick it up and take a look at it and handle it, because just not many of them are around, and he wanted to allow people to have the experience of looking at one of those up close. And it was a wonderful piece. It was a very great experience for somebody like me with my interest in percussion arms to be able to handle a piece like that. But I just didn't have $5,000 cash in my pocket to bring that one home with me. So we had a nice conversation. I thanked him very graciously for allowing me to look at that original piece, and I went on my way. But a few tables down, a gentleman had this particular pistol in his case for sale at a very reasonable price. It was an old kit model made by ASM and marketed by CVA. It was missing the front sight, which I had to fabricate and put on it. And I really liked it because it had, whoever built it had blued it, but the blue had started getting the brown patina to it. And they had polished the brass with a buffer. So I took that, brought it home and disassembled it and knocked it back. And it made a nice looking, original looking patinaed pocket pistol. And it's a nice pistol. It's got a good action. Everything locks up tight. It's not been shot very much, and it's in good shape. So it was a nice shootable pistol to add to my collection. That was a good representation of an original gun. Now, big difference between this gun and this gun. And quite frankly, in if I have my druthers on which one of these to carry for personal protection, the Colt would win out. I'll just be honest with you on that. This is kind of a dainty gun. This is what you'd call a crossed card table pistol. It's not the most accurate pistol ever made. It shoots very, very high. And with this brass frame, I only load about 10 grains of 3F powder in it, and with a wad and a 31 caliber ball. So it is a rather anemic load, but across the card table, back in the Old West, it would be a reliable piece of protection. I wouldn't want to shoot it any farther than that. Where our counterpart made by Colt was pretty much an across saloon gun. I can load this gun with a ball and a felt wad with 12 grains of 4F, and it's a pretty potent little pistol, out to about 20 yards. I wouldn't be afraid to use it for self-defense. But a little beefier frame, a little beefier cylinder, a little bit, half the big difference in the two pistols. So, as far as one I would carry reliably for more versatile personal protection, the Colt would win out. But again, I like this little pistol. It's a neat part of firearms history, and for what it is, it's a well-made gun. Like I said, this particular model, it was marketed back in the 70s by CVA. Someone put this together in a kit, and they did a pretty good job of it. But like I said, when I bought it, it had a nice patina to it. It looks like a nicely aged piece. Again, it wouldn't be one that I would want to shoot a very beefy load in, for fear of stretching the cylinder or cracking the frame, stretching the frame or cracking the frame in it. I stick to about 10 grains of powder. It's a lot of fun to shoot, and its range of capability is a fairly reliable little gun. Please, if you enjoyed this video, I would ask that you hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. We'll probably have a shooting video out on this gun here in the near future, but just had some time to spend today inside and wanted to talk a little bit about this nice little representation of a Remington pocket model. Thanks for watching. Keep your powder dry, and we'll see you next time.